Good evening. And how is everybody doing today? I hope they're well. I am here to get on the same level as everybody else. I decided to, speak out about stuff and, give my props to everybody who's got the galls to stand up and state what's going on with this. I apologize for the mask, as my children are still in care, and considering my recent employment proposals, I did not want to fully show my face. But to the discussion. Many Canadians are being treated unfairly, mainly children. We treat them like they don't know anything and they are just a pawn, and it isn't even the parents doing it, really. It's family court. It's the injustices around that and the government. You cannot speak out about the abuses or you will be ostracized as insane and put in a little box with the rest of the disgruntled parents who are rightfully angry and fighting for their kids, as their kids have been apprehended for outlandish reasons. Many of these children in this situation, we find a lot of them have been in the human trafficking industry, which I think is very odd. With the recent findings that these children were in human trafficking, it's very strange. And I don't know, I just find it odd that when they found these children in the human trafficking industry, that a lot of them were foster kids. And I think that kind of goes to kind of a telltale sign of what's actually going on behind the scenes. And under a specific section, which you can look up on Google, in Canada, a child can be removed based on hearsay if the director feels that there's any issue. Feels. This isn't like if you have evidence and can do it. This is like if she feels there may be an issue or there may be anything said that they find might be reliable. That doesn't mean that it is. That doesn't mean that this person is totally reliable. It means that they feel. So it's kind of based on their opinion more so than anything. And, I don't really feel like that's a totally fair thing to do to parents or to families or to children. So basically, if they don't like you from the first day they lay eyes on you and they pass a judgment immediately, you're basically hooped for the duration of what they put you through and whatever they decide that you need to do, whatever hoops you need to jump through to please them, which they thrive on people who like to please others. They thrive on it. And a mass majority of what I have experienced is a lack of empathy. There is a total lack of empathy and compassion with people who are in that job. And I've heard a lot of they get burnt out, blah, 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 but I don't feel like being burnt out is a reason to violate somebody's human rights. Like, I think that that's a sad excuse, and it's a very inappropriate excuse to use to take somebody's rights away. And it isn't even just with that agency. It's not even with child protection in itself. It's with many government agencies. Like, it could be many government agencies, police, the police brutalities going on that we've seen, the brutalities from the government as a whole that are going on that we have seen have really violated our rights. I mean, the courts and lawyers with legal aid, if you ever need legal aid, you may be a little bit protected with criminal justice, but not always. Not always. Very often, there are some cases where the criminal act has been violated. Those have, of course, gone to Supreme Court, but there have been certain instances where it's been violated. But when it comes to family court, if you need legal aid and you're fighting the ministry, they're gonna basically drag their feet. Like, most of the lawyers, they drag their feet. They don't actually fight for the parents. They drag their feet, like, big time drag their feet. they'll take the long road. They'll take it as long as possible. They'll make you wait as long as possible. And that's what I think is absolutely insane, is they'll be like, yeah, okay, well, you have to do what the worker asks you to do. And when I hear lawyers say that, it irks me. Because what if these people really are violating rights? How can you sit there and, after taking your oath to be a lawyer, sit there and ignore it? How can you feel good in yourself doing that? Their prime targets are usually families under the poverty line. So those people do very often need the help of legal aid. So if you earn under $40,000 a year, that's under the poverty line. They can use neglect, which is a very broad term. So they can say, well, you neglect your kids. And even if you don't technically neglect your kids, they could literally say, well, you might neglect your kids in the future. You might neglect your kids at some point because you don't have that much money. And even if you are like amazing at budgeting and you're amazing at getting everything together for your kids that you may or may not need in the future, they'll still be like, well, you still earn under that poverty line, therefore you are still under the poverty line. And that is the biggest thing with them, is that people that are under that poverty line, people that don't earn that much, people who are on disability, people who have mental health issues, though it's a challenge, that does not make them incapable. It does not make you incapable. Having a disability does not make somebody completely incapable. I mean, we have seen many people thrive even with a disability. Many people have done so awesomely. But yet, we're still discriminating against them. We're still discriminating against people who are totally capable. And at the same time, you have malicious reports coming from enemies. And if you have enemies and they decide, hey, I'm mad at you, so I'm going to call in because I know that if I call in and get your kids taken away, that's what's going to get to you. That's the go-to for most people. Most really crappy people will use your kids because that is the best pawn to use in their eyes. Those people are really messed. And if you're one of those people, I feel sorry for you. That's an awful thing to do for somebody. And even if it was completely justified in you cutting that person out, even if you have every right, the ministry will still stand behind the person who was cut out and who is acting inappropriately. They'll still stand behind them because, I guess birds of a feather, right? They will use your kids, basically. And if you have a toxic family member, or toxic family members, it doesn't even have to be one, it can be several, who love using MCFD to attack their other family members, you're screwed. Very often what MCFD will do is they will make an offer to your toxic family that they cannot refuse. They will go in and say, hey, if you take so-and-so's kids, if you take your daughter, niece, sister, or whatever, if you take their kids, you can earn up to $5,000 a month. Doesn't that sound like a lot of money? Isn't that a lot of money? And they will go and they will tell them all of this, and they'll tell them, hey, we'll give you immunity if you take those kids. We'll give immunity if you help us and you back us up against that person. I have seen them do it. That is the craziest thing. I have actually seen them do that. I've had the luck of actually hearing these conversations going on. And I wasn't meant to hear it, but I did. If you have a lack of supports, you're screwed. There is no help for families either, because they'll sever your ties with your kids. I mean, they let you have a visit once a week for 2 hours, which is not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be a lot more than that. Especially if you have a child under a certain age, you should be getting more access to them because they're at a very, very vital age to have that. They need that parental tie, because without that parental tie, they can grow up to have mental health issues themselves, some worse than you even have. If you have anxiety, depression, your child could grow up with borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, schizophrenia, because being abused triggers a trauma center in our brains. And when you are removed from your parents, it's a trauma center. It's a traumatic experience. That traumatic experience can trigger something in your brain to stop developing appropriately. And the thing that sucks is these people don't have any oversight. The ombudsman will barely touch a case, even if there is complete fallacy. Complaint specialists help the social workers. They don't actually help you. I have seen this from my own disclosure documents that I got to read. In emails, they will literally make fun of you behind your back. Now, they didn't realize when they sent me those disclosure documents that that's what they had sent me. I don't think they really realized that they sent that. But in the disclosure documents, their conversations were incredibly demeaning. And that's the thing, is that the complaint social workers, that they work for them. They're not there to help us. They work for them. They pay them. So whoever pays them is the one that they're going to stand on the side of. Same thing that goes for the psychologists who do the parental capacity assessments. You will not very often find a psychologist who will stand on the side of the parent. Like, they don't. Very often they will stand on the side of whoever paid them. And, the workers, they relish in this. This gets them what they want. I mean, your child is of empirical financial value to them. They're a cash cow. And they're using your children as cattle to make money off of them. I know that sounds completely insane. And a lot of people would think the same thing. And I get that because, years ago, I thought that was insane. I thought that was weird. I thought that was silly. People don't actually do that. And as I gotten older, I've realized people do that. They so do that. This is the state of our world that it's come to. And it's sad because there's not a lot of human compassion left. There's not a lot of people helping one another or caring for one another. It's more about what I get, what I want. And it's not about what's better for the family or for the children. It's about money, monetary value. That's all people care about. I have had the luck of meeting a few people who are caring individuals. I have had that luck. Very few people. But most are not that caring. It took me 4 years to get my disclosure documents. I fought real hard. My lawyer did a lot of the fighting, actually. And I was very lucky. And I compiled a way to ask certain questions to ensure that you get a lawyer that actually is going to do the job that you're looking for them to do. And luckily, she has done quite a bit. It's been a hard road, but she's done quite a bit. It was an insane roller coaster getting those documents. And when I finally got them, I realized just how much of a pile of crap I was dealing with. Not only from the workers that were doing false risk assessments without even meeting with me, which is actually part of the mandate, being that I have textbooks, I'm going to school for this. Part of the mandate is when they do your risk assessments, they have to be sitting and talking with you and writing things down that you have done in the last 3 months or 6 months to get your kids back. If they're not talking with you about that, then they're not following the mandate. Not that they ever follow the mandate, but they're not following the mandate. And I feel like a lot of this is linked. And, we have to speak up for these guys. These kids are all we got. We are all these kids got. The government's not going to stand up for them. They don't really care about them. They're just a monetary thing. They're more money. That's all they are. And what this is, it's tantamount to child abuse. It's parental alienation. And it falls under the category of child abuse. And the thing that really disturbs me is the diagnosis part. The diagnosis part is the worst. They diagnose these kids and they pop them full medications. Canada or not, if it's happening in the States, usually a general rule is it's happening in Canada. And that has been the basis for everything. Like, take Texas, for example. If you watch the videos in Texas, the unmitigated power they have there, just the insurmountable amount of insane power they have in that place, and what they've done to people. If you fight, we'll take your kids. And then if the lawyer helps you fight, we'll take their kids. It almost feels like that's what's happening here. It almost feels like Canada is going through that same stuff. And, you know, and the shirts that those social workers were wearing, legal child traffickers, and, you know, and all the deaths we've had, that kid that died in the hotel room, that did not need to happen. I mean, their total neglect of our children, of our legacies, has been totally just, it goes against every right that us as humans, even the children as humans, have. And the fact that nobody will even, like, we have to fight for them, because they don't have a lot of people doing that right now. They have people saying that these people are there to help, but they're not helping us. They're really not helping us. They're actually attacking and destroying children's lives and families. And nobody deserves that. They don't deserve it. They deserve better than that. And, like, there isn't that much that is abuse that is going on. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some, but most of the abuse is actually happening in the foster homes. It's actually happening in government care. And it shows in all of the cases, and how much more likely abuse and sexual abuse and any of that horrid crap that happens to children, it shows how much higher of a chance it happens in care than it does out. The parents are not that more highly likely to do anything. It's really the ministry that is. It's really Child Protective Services that is, or whatever it's called in your region. It's them that has the likelihood of putting the children in an abusive situation. It's not the parents. And the lack of support is a huge issue. It's a very insurmountable issue. And this is something that needs to be brought up and fought. Because our children's rights should mean more to us. Our rights should mean more to us than what the government is trying to stuff down our throats. They have taken away a lot of our liberties as Canadians. They have taken away so much from us. And the fighting for it really needs to be something we have to do. And I'm not suggesting, like, you know, anything negative, obviously. But we definitely need to start shouting it from the rooftops. Like the previous guy said. It definitely needs to be something that needs to be put out there. Like, hey, this is a fallacy. It is not okay for the children. They are not there to help. They're really hindering and abusing families further. Please do not let this happen anymore. Somebody has to step up and do something. And I'm hoping somebody eventually does. I really do hope somebody does, because they deserve, all of us deserve a better Canada. All of us deserve a more protected country. And a country that respects differences and respects people and doesn't try to crush families that they feel are any different. Because an unmitigated amount of proof or an unmitigated amount of abuse of anybody is totally wrong. And we need to put a stop to that ourselves. And I'm hoping everything I've said has made sense. I'm hoping everything I've said, I'm sorry if I talk fast, and, you know, I'm a fast talker. I'd probably be a good lawyer, but I'm not going to be a good lawyer, because I don't want to be a lawyer. But I am going to be here for any questions about the CFCSA and CSW and all that, because I am working towards trying to make a career in social work so that I can help families like myself. And hopefully at least help people fight this great big battle we seem to be facing. I personally am in the middle of one myself. I'm approaching trial very soon. Next year, actually. I fought hard. We fought hard to get trial. And that was all with the help of my mother, whom I'm going to be here to say hi, thank you. And thanks to everybody who has supported me unwaveringly throughout this entire ridiculous fight. And thank you to anybody else who has been there to help. Because it means a lot to me, and it reminds me that I do have more support than I thought I did. Anyways, from here, I'm gonna peace out, you guys. And hopefully, we can get something heard from this, because, well, we all here for the same reasons. We need to fight for our rights. It's unfortunate it has gotten to this point. It is insane, but we need to. Peace, have a good night, and take care of yourselves.